Hey, what's up everyone? This is Isaiah, and I'm here with another video talking about the 4 things that I wish I knew when I started working out. Now, I started working out when I was in college. It was part of our training for the basketball team. I didn't really get into it regularly until probably my junior year, when I started to see the value of working out and what that could do for shaping my body. Even with all the programming and the support that was provided through the basketball program at Covenant, there were still mistakes that I made along the way that if I could go back and change them, I feel like I would have increased my athletic ability, my strength, and just my ability to perform on the court and in the weight room a lot sooner and with a lot less pain in the process. So let's jump into it with our top 4 things that I wish I knew when I started working out. Number 4, and probably the best place to start, is to learn from somebody who knows what they're doing when you're starting to work out. You're talking about, if it's weight training, you're talking about moving weights that are equal to or maybe more than your body weight, and there's a lot of potential for injury or doing something wrong. So you're either going to be hurting yourself or not getting the benefits of the time that and effort that you're putting in. And so I had an opportunity to learn from upperclassmen above me. Taylor Jackson, I've talked about before, who's a coach now in Georgia. He was the one who really first showed me how to lift, how to program, and how to do things with proper form. Even then, as I got to more advanced lifts as I left college, there were times when I wasn't doing them right. And so I had an opportunity to work out of a garage gym with Shane Martin, and he was one who really taught me how to deadlift, use kettlebells, squat, all with proper form so that I could get the benefits of that while staying healthy. And so for you guys at home, that might look like going to your local gym and asking about personal trainers. These are people who are taught and trained to be able to teach you how to lift properly, what kind of exercise you're looking for based on the goals that you describe to them. So these guys are an invaluable resource and definitely worth the investment. If I could go back and have the opportunity to take advantage of someone whose entire job was wrapped up in making sure that I could reach my fitness goals, man, that would be such a step up from the way I started in my first few years of training. Number 3 thing that I wish that I knew when I started working out is that consistency is the key. Now, I've talked a lot about how I want to be able to jump higher, I want to be able to dunk. And there was a phase of a couple of years that I went through, probably after graduating from college and then maybe the first year or so of grad school, where I would go on stack.com every couple of weeks and I'd find the latest plyometric exercise, the latest training trend, the latest thing that would help me diet better or lose weight or gain explosiveness. And what that happened was that I was just hopping from thing to thing, from fad to fad, and I was never doing anything consistently. So while there were some gains, and there were probably some good exercises along the way that I pulled out of that, but what happened was I would do something for maybe a couple of days, maybe a week or two at most, and then I would forget about it. I would ditch it because there was something new for me to chase after. There was something new on the website for me to look up and try. And so while new exercises and new techniques are not bad in and of themselves, if your entire training consists of jumping from one thing to the other, hoping it'll work, I'd be really surprised if you made the progress that you're looking for because you're not giving it time, you're not putting in the effort to consistently work that and be able to gain the benefits that it's supposed to provide. All right, number 2 thing that I wish that I knew when starting to work out. This one is huge for me, especially as I've been getting older. The biggest thing that I've seen so far is that recovery is key. And I'm going to say this caveat, I'm not a sports nutritionist or a sports scientist. I'm not a personal trainer or a doctor or anything. But my understanding of how strength training works is that as you lift, you're tearing the muscle fibers in the part of your body that you're training. What that does is allow them to regrow stronger. And so what happens is that your training or your lifting is providing the catalyst for that process to happen, but the actual piece of getting stronger, getting more explosive, getting in better shape, burning fat, whatever it is, comes in the recovery phase and not the actual training phase. And so when I was young, and I miss these days sometimes, where I felt like I could do 2-a-days all the time if I had the time for it. I could work out, go play basketball, just be going for hours at a time. And it felt great, but that is not how I was going to get better in terms of strength, speed, explosiveness, because I wasn't giving my body time to recover. On top of that, I probably wasn't eating the best way I should to really recover. Again, I'm not going to give any nutrition or training advice on here, but this is just from my experience that especially when I was doing a lot of plyometric and heavy leg work, go straight into a jump session the next day, anecdotally, I just didn't feel as explosive. I felt a lot more sluggish. There have been trainers and coaches that talk about how your central nervous system can actually be fatigued or tired, and so the signals don't fire as quickly when you've been training hard, and you need to give your body and your nervous system time to rest and recover so that you can perform at peak capacity. And so what does that look like at home for you all? Mobility work, stretching, maybe even playing different sports can be a way to switch up the routine in a way that allows your muscles to recover from hard training in the gym to actually using those muscles in a functional way that you would expect them to perform on the court or on the field. Another way that we go about this, and it sounds so simple, but it's so important, is to sleep well. And this is something that I've struggled with, especially after having kids for a few years now. Being able to get enough sleep allows our bodies to recover and to be able to build up that strength and to recover those muscle fibers, to rest that nervous system. And I think it does get swept under the rug or downplayed just in how important sleep can be for our physical well-being as well as our mental health. So the last bit I want to say about the recovery work is that recovery work does not have to be no work. It can include mobility work. It can, like I said, include maybe some playing sports, getting some movement in. But what it is about changing up the routine. And some fitness programs are really good with this, where you'll work alternating days, upper body, lower body, and things like that. And that's why we switch it up, so that you have multiple days of rest in between working that particular muscle group. And there might be, as we age or as we're rehabbing, days that we devote exclusively to mobility work or stretching or making sure we're resting and eating right. And so again, refer to a personal trainer, refer to a coach for what's right for your situation. But this has been my experience with the rest and recovery piece. And now, my one biggest thing that I wish that I knew when I started working out: form is greater than weight. And what I mean by that is, especially when you start getting into the big lifts, you're talking squats, deadlifts, especially for guys, we want those Instagram worthy, where you can count the number of 45s that are on the bar and you get the likes based on like, oh man, this guy is so strong, he can move so much weight. What happens is that, I see this especially for guys, is that we start compromising our form in order to get a couple extra pounds on the bar. And here's the thing, there's been new technologies. My brother just had an opportunity to test out one of these things where they put devices on your body that stimulates the nervous system so that when you're using a really light weight, they can make the stimulus like if you were doing hundreds of pounds of weight instead of the light bar that you're carrying. And so what really matters is the time under tension, the work and effort that you're putting in. And the increased weight can be a great stimulus for having to work harder. But if we have good form, if we are going full effort on every rep, no matter what the weight is or what the resistance is, then we can get a lot of those benefits without risking the injury. And this is one thing that I really had to learn the hard way. So like I said, during a period of a couple of years, I was doing a lot of lower body work. Squats, deadlifts, different variations of both front squats, hack squats, Romanian deadlifts, single leg deadlifts, all this stuff. And what happened was that I kept thinking, okay, if I pile on more plates, that means I'm getting stronger, that means I'll jump higher. And what happened was that I was compromising my form. My lower back started to tighten up, I had lower back pain, even had trouble with my knees at one point. And what happened was I had to go back and rebuild my form and learn to lift those weights properly so that once I mastered the form, I could add the weight and gain the benefits without having to constantly rehab an ailing part of my body. And so the takeaway, I think, is that we need to recognize that there's a different learning curve when it comes to different lifts. Some are basic, some of the single muscle group ones, the simple ones, can be pretty quick to master. But when it comes to this full body, such as squats especially, we got to make sure that we're working up from body weight to lightweight to heavyweight. If we can only handle lightweight because of injury or whatever, making sure that we can add resistance and difficulty in other ways, maybe by increasing time under tension, how long we're doing the eccentric portion of the lift, the lowering portion of the lift where we're fighting against gravity and the weight pulling us down, and how explosive are we in the concentric phase when we're moving the weight upwards again. And so those are some different ways that we can play around with that and be patient with that learning curve so that we can fully master the weight, which allows us to add more resistance in the end and be able to gain the benefits of that. This is a little bittersweet to talk about because having to think about this makes me think about there have been years that I probably wasted that I could have been getting so much more benefit out of the work and time that I was putting in. But what I'm hoping for is that some of you can learn from some of this and be able to do better, be able to use these lessons to get the benefits of your training. And if you're putting the time and the effort in, it's awesome, and I want you to be able to enjoy all of the benefits that that unlocks for you instead of having to rehab injuries that are avoidable or have to wonder where all your progress is going to show up because you are over fatiguing your body or your central nervous system is overtired or overworked. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's allowed me to enjoy working out, to be mostly pain-free, and to allow my body to keep functioning the way I want it to.